Good evening. A hospital has apologised after it emerged that it had kept the remains of 86 fetuses that should have been cremated. Walsall Manor Hospital said the errors were down to paperwork, as Mark Goff reports.
Today, officials at Walsall Manor Hospital said what had happened had been distressing for the patients involved. Between 2010 and 2013, remains of 86 fetuses, which were the result of miscarriages or terminations, weren't disposed of as they should have been and had been kept in the hospital mortuary. What should have happened was that a certificate authorising the cremation of the remains should have been sent to the mortuary, and that should have been done within 1 to 3 months. In all 86 cases, this didn't happen.
The certificate that has to be properly completed so we can release the remains for disposal at the crematorium hasn't been being completed in a relatively small number of cases, and as a result of that we've developed a backlog of remains in our mortuary. I'm sincerely sorry on behalf of the Trust to anyone who has suffered any distress as a result of this delay in the disposal of remains following terminations and miscarriages, and would just like to assure everybody that we are working really hard to respond to what we've identified.
A charity which helps mothers who've miscarried says this news could have a detrimental effect on parents.
I think that the parents involved, mothers and possibly fathers too, will have a range of reactions. Some of them will not have thought about their pregnancy loss or their termination of pregnancy for some years. Some of them won't have wanted to think about what happened to the remains of the pregnancy at the time.
A small number of women who agreed to be contacted in the event of a problem have been informed, but not all 86 have been told.
Well, we work very hard with the clinical teams here at the Trust, with organisations like the Miscarriage Association and the Human Tissue Authority to work out what the right response to this has been, because we wanted to be very careful not to cause even further distress and concern.
The hospital says it's changed its systems, and these will be scrutinised by the Human Tissue Authority later this month. Mark Goff, ITV News, Walsall.
Well, the hospital has set up a phone line for anyone who might be affected, and that number is on screen now. Dozens of residents in Derby had a lucky escape today when part of their block of flats was destroyed by a gas explosion. Road closures brought traffic in the area to a virtual standstill for much of the day. Police and fire crews were called to Bridge Street this morning, and one resident told us of his lucky escape.
I've gone in the utility room where we do our washing to get my clean washing light, but instead of going in there, I heard a song on the radio, so I decided not to. But as I closed the door to the flat, I just heard a loud explosion, like, you know what I mean? So I shouldn't be here now, technically.
Former Coventry City and Birmingham City striker Marlon King has admitted dangerous driving after a crash which left a driver with a broken arm. It happened in April last year while he was driving a Porsche on the A46 near Newark in Nottinghamshire. King will be sentenced in May and faces a maximum 2-year jail sentence. There's been a dramatic rise in the number of dog attacks, and later this week, a special ITV documentary, which has been filmed in our region, will look closer at this issue. Lee Comley has been to visit a man from Walsall who's calling for much tougher laws after an attack which he says nearly killed his granddaughter.
It's a day that Peter Hyruck and his family will never forget. In May 2012, his granddaughter Amy was attacked by a neighbour's Japanese Akita on the street outside her home. It left her with horrible injuries, but it could have been so much worse.
And it shook me, really, because I realised how close Amy came to death, because this was a very large dog, had her head in its mouth and was about to shake it when my son jumped on the actual dog. That really frightened us to the core, to be quite frank with you. And we've looked forward to changes to the legislation to stop that from happening in future.
Amy has made a full recovery, and with a little help from Peter's golden retriever Lucy, she's happy around dogs again. Peter's shocked about the amount of attacks that have been taking place and hopes that more police powers will help.
One of the other primary legislations which is coming about is preventative measures, where in future, if you have a neighbour or you see a dog which is being badly treated or is a danger, you think, to yourself or to the public, you can take steps and go to the local authority and get them to intercede before an attack or a dangerous situation takes place. You haven't got to wait for the dog to attack or to become out of control before steps are taken.
The dog that attacked his granddaughter was eventually destroyed, and the wounds that Amy suffered have healed. But it was an attack that never should have happened. With tighter controls and a focus on teaching dog owners to be more responsible for their pets, Peter hopes the rise in these attacks can be stopped. Lee Comley, ITV News.
Now, a couple of results to tell you about in League One tonight. Both Wolves and Shrewsbury lost. Wolves went 2-1 down away at Crawley Town, and Shrewsbury were defeated at Colchester. And staying with football, former Birmingham City Managing Director Karen Brady has been given a CBE for services to entrepreneurship and women in business. The First Lady of Football, as she's known, was presented with the honour by Prince William. She became the first female to hold a top position on the board of a football club at 23 and stayed as Birmingham's MD for 16 years. She said her 20 years in the business have been difficult, but things are getting better and that it's important for young women to have role models. Now let's get the weather forecast from Lucy.
A short break. Whatever the weather, ITV Local Weather, sponsored by Centre Parks.
Hello, well, an unsettled theme for the latter part of this week with some rain in the forecast. Also some sunny spells to come, especially through the day tomorrow. But the rain is heading in our direction as we speak. From the west, it's going to arrive on Thursday lunchtime and make its way in a southeasterly direction. Before that arrives then, dry overnight tonight and temperatures dipping to 6 or 7 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow morning will be quite cloudy, but we'll all enjoy some good spells of sunshine in the afternoon and it will remain dry. Now, it will be fairly breezy tomorrow, but it's going to feel milder than today, 14 or 15 degrees Celsius.
ITV Local Weather, sponsored by Centre Parks.
And that's all we've got time for tonight. As always, there are updates on our stories on the website. Just go to itv.com/central. We're back tomorrow morning within daybreak, but for now, from the late team, good night